Here we go. There we go.
You are running with the Devils, and Big John, tough loss for the Devils over the weekend at Stanford. But we carry on here on RWD, as we like to say here. You give us 30 minutes, we give you the world of Arizona State football. And we got a lot to talk about in this week's show. As always, I'm the RyKno, Ryan Knowles. Here with me, Big John Caldwell. And Big John, we'll start. Obviously, we'll talk about the Devils' defeat at the hands of the Stanford Cardinal in Palo Alto, 15-14 over the weekend. And this game has brought on, we believe, some changes within the program, especially at the top, with an open quarterback competition at practice this week between Emory Jones and TV16 Trenton Bourget. We'll talk about that quite a bit. And then also interim head coach Sean Aguano he's going to be more involved in the play calling this week, taking over for offensive coordinator Glenn Thomas. We'll certainly talk about the reasoning behind that and some of the changes some of the different things you'll see with him taking over the play calling. And of course, this weekend, ASU will face the Colorado Buffaloes in Boulder. We'll give you the full rundown preview of that game as well. But we start with last weekend. Of course, Devils fall in a close one to the Stanford Cardinal. Game came down to the final play, in fact, as Emory Jones threw a ball that was initially called complete to Elijah Badger down to the Stanford 1 on a 4th and 10 call, where a replay showed Badger's foot was out of bounds when he came down. And unfortunately, the Devils fall to the Cardinal. They've got one in Palo Alto since I was a student at ASU. My last year at ASU, 2007. ASU looked really good in the first half, John. They came away 14-6. Should have been 17-6. Unfortunately, Carter Brown left a 45-yard field goal short with about a minute to go in the half, and then they lose without giving up a touchdown for the first time since 1984. That's happened for the Devils. So rough one to take.
5 field goals should not beat you. I'm sorry, not in football. That's especially when you're scoring and you're moving the ball well in the first half. To see what happened in the second half, really, you look at Emory. He was 48% completion. His second half was lower than the first, and frankly, I think it became really apparent to everybody. I don't care what side of the quarterback controversy. It became very apparent to everybody that something needed to change. That as far as moving the team, moving the chains, we were way too far behind the chains on third downs.
And that was another problem that I think kind of came up through the course of the game, was that the offensive line. They certainly missed starting left guard Ladarius Henderson, one of the captains of the team. He did not play.
They were
shuffling around the offensive line, and it showed, especially in the second half. First down, run down. Xavier Valade had a great first half. He was
my Lord.
6 yards a carry, and second half, they were throwing him for 3-4 yard losses every time the team behind the chains.
Second half.
That's also a scheme thing. That's a play calling thing that needs to be, just can't happen as many times as it did.
Stanford really did adjust on Badger. I felt they really didn't let him have the space that he needed to get open. They went to a press, and I don't know. I'm pretty sure they recognized it, but they didn't do anything to kind of correct for it.
And that's another reason why Sean Aguano was kind of taken over. And I think Glenn Thomas is adjusting his play calling enough.
Right.
And I mentioned the offensive line struggles. They end up giving up 10 tackles for loss and 4 sacks in this game. That's way too many.
No,
that just can't happen. I mean, there were a couple times. I mean, we talked about this during the pre-show. Chris Martinez, moving over to the left side, he looked lost at times. They were try to stick his arm out in front of guys instead of moving his feet and blocking with his body.
That's terrible.
I know that moving from right to left is a bit of a struggle, but you still gotta put your body in front of somebody and not just try to be a turnstile.
Yeah.
And
the good thing
that was a big problem. And I mean, Isaiah Glass, seems like they've been trying to make him a swing tackle in an effort to keep Des Holmes on the right tackle healthy, and he doesn't handle playing the right side very well. He hasn't thus far. I'm not sure why that is. He plays the left side extremely well, but yeah, you put him on the right side, he's just much less consistent. So,
Well, I'll tell you who
also
did.
Ladarius Henderson, I don't think was talked about enough.
No,
It certainly played a role in the offensive line struggling with.
if there was a bright spot, Ben Scott graded out perfect in the Washington game and in this game. He was Ben Scott's doing a great job, folks. It's kind of all around
center, yes.
Yeah, and it's kind of like moving Boley around, moving Glass around is not. It's like they haven't really found everybody's natural. So Henderson being gone.
Another player they're missing. He went out week 1, but I think he's definitely been missed. Is Joey Ramos.
That's
another guy who
part of the rotation.
Plays 4 positions. He's a very, very good player, and they've kind of missed him a little bit too. So that offensive line it's going to be a couple more weeks without Ladarius Henderson. So until he's back, they've got to find some kind of combination up front that works for everybody. Because right now, they've really struggled. I don't know if they need to play Des Holmes more snaps. Trying to kind of get off that snap count of his. Yeah. And or what? But something's got to change because you can't have another game like you had against Stanford.
Earlier in the season they were playing Frias a little bit, so he may get in the rotation. Ben Bray.
Yeah, but he's a guard, though.
Yes, that's what I mean. I'm saying on the left guard side, and maybe move somebody else around. Yeah, but really, I was really happy with the way the defense put it together. And we had talked about this in the last week's show that they needed to step it up, and they stepped it up nicely. We thought you could see it coming, and that Donnie was starting to throw the bring safeties up the edge, and we got to that quarterback a few times. That one time he came up blind on Ed Woods on him. Yeah. That was devastating. That's the highlight, makes the highlight reel, don't it?
Oh yeah.
That was beautiful.
Shades of Lloyd Carrington taking out Kevin Hogan in 2014.
That's right. He played like Longino out there.
Yeah, right.
Just had that look in his eye, right?
Yeah, that was great to see. And then the defense, definitely been getting after it of late. They certainly have played well enough to win. They're playing kind of more of a bend but don't break style, but it's still good enough to win. I mean, you don't give up a touchdown, you should win a game.
Yeah. Remember, I had said, no fly zone. They were knocking down balls like all over the place.
Man, Terrence. I mean, he was getting a lot of love on the broadcast, and he's just been balling out. And he's missed 3 games this season, and he's still third in the conference in passes defended. Yeah. So he's having a great year, and
Bethley's still playing well. I think he's really an asset back, and I thought
Chris Edmonds made a couple nice plays in this game.
And then Jordan made the diving pick, which was just a thing of beauty.
He's another guy that's just been balling out a lot more of late. So definitely a lot to like from this defense. I think that if you can take a bright spot away from this game, even though you've lost, the defense certainly played well enough to win.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and I think this is what leads to the obvious conclusion that 14 points is not enough. 14 points, you can't let field goal kickers get 5.
I was saying that. I was saying that during the course of the game. Yeah, you can't.
But I had pointed out that kid was really good. I think he's probably going to win an award of some sort. At least
he was Pac-12 Special Teams Player of the Week again this week. Second straight week.
No, he's flopped. He's been perfect all year. I don't know if anybody else can say that. But I do think that we did learn some things about.
Yes.
Again,
as we always do here on RWD, without after a loss, we don't like to, but we have to. Here, what we learned, presented by Flagstar Bank. For all your mortgage needs, check out xllendingteam.com. And for me, I mentioned it during the opener. Offensive coordinator Glenn Thomas is just not getting the job done as a play caller. It is, what he's been doing. You mentioned the adjustments,
right?
Seeing the press, looking at the film, they look at the pictures and whatnot on the sideline. They got the tablets. They're looking at the previous plays. He's got, he has not. I don't know if he's just not recognizing what the opposing defense is doing, but in the second half when they changed it up a little bit and they started
Mhm.
pressing Badger.
Mhm.
I mean, he just wasn't. He just didn't adjust
Nope.
fast enough. He didn't change up what they were doing. He wasn't doing enough to take pressure off of the O line and off of Emery. I think that running a lot of long developing plays is not the answer when the Stanford's pinning their ears back and coming after you. So, just a lot of things to kind of criticize, and that's why Sean Aguano's taking over play calling
Right.
going forward. So, but another bright spot for this team was Elijah Badger, and he had a fantastic game. 6 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown. We saw flashes of it last year when they used him in gadget plays, and he was, making some nice runs. But now I think he's kind of turned himself into a go-to receiver,
Right.
somebody you can kind of line up all over the place, and he can make plays. Just someone you want to try to get the ball in his hands. And yeah, I'm looking forward to more of the same from him going forward. I
I
really think
haven't. Yeah.
continue to play at a high level the way he has.
So he has that break. He has that ability to get separation because of his speed.
Right.
And once he gets the ball, he has a little extra gear, a little extra giddy up.
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen anybody catch him from behind this year. So
Yeah.
he
Well, and
really.
another guy he's kind of turned into, and somebody mentioned this on the broadcast. Another guy he kind of reminds me of a little bit is Brandon Ayuk, because
Well,
Ayuk
that's.
had that next gear that he
Mhm.
could turn on in the open field, and
Mhm.
nobody really catch him.
Yeah.
So
So if
that's
anybody's out,
I think that
anybody's out
Elijah
there.
Badger. I think we kind of we saw flashes of it at certain times, but now we're starting to see more that he's kind of grasped the offense, kind of picked up, more more points on how to be a complete receiver, and it's starting to show on the field, and can't wait to see what he turns into here in the next couple of years.
Well, I think looking from the NIL perspective, folks, that this is the guy you need to target your NIL dollars to next year.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Um, my key points. I just keep seeing more and more improvement. It's amazing to see Jordan Clark really understanding what his football IQ is. Seems like it's growing right in front of us. We still can't stop the big tight end, the big kid from Stanford that we talked about last week in the
Yeah,
show. Chet Hetty,
Benjamin
your
Urasek. Yeah,
Jurasik,
he had a
just
huge game.
yeah,
And yeah, that was a problem. He had 10 catches for 78 yards, and that's been a problem all season. Defending the
yeah.
tight end has been an issue. I think Washington don't recognize that. They tried to
Mhm.
go to their tight end
That's right.
more than they pretty much have all season.
Right.
Luckily, he didn't have the same ability as some of the others that they faced, but
Hmm.
teams are targeting the tight end again. With this with the way this defense is lined up, they're just not defending the tight end very well right now,
Hmm.
and that's something that if you had to point to something on this defense that has struggled,
Yeah.
that's it.
And when I say, it's obvious. Emery's 1-5. He hasn't. Just statistically, you can't keep doing the same thing you keep doing and expecting to
Right,
get different results. That's the definition of insanity.
Kennedy. Yeah.
Trenton is well, he's not he's not the big RPO guy. He can run, folks. I saw it today at practice. Um, don't discount that. Trenton, though, is
I think he's a little bit like Burko in that you use him as kind of a decoy, and then
yeah,
when they don't see it coming,
right.
you
Well,
you let him run
if the linebackers have all sucked,
on a read option or whatever, and he can burn you for a long game.
he will. I've been spending, talking to him, texting him, he and his dad and his brother. They're they're getting they're low. Listen, there's no pressure on him right now for this starting job. He's
No,
just doing what he's doing. The pressure is all on Emery.
yeah,
And at
he's
practice
playing
today,
with house money.
Trenton pulled ahead. Okay, all week long. Well, the first practice this week, Trenton statistically was better. Today, Trenton pulled
Yeah,
clearly
and
ahead.
we'll talk about the open quarterback competition here in
Good.
just a minute. But if that, then that's what we learned. Presented by Flagstar Bank. For all your mortgage needs, check out xllendingteam.com. And before we talk about Colorado, we did want to talk about this open quarterback competition. And Sean Aguano said in his Monday press conference this time that it will be a real competition. well, that remains to be seen. I mean, the only way that we know that for sure is if there is a change, or if Emory does go out and actually outplay Trenton, which has not happened from everything that we're hearing. So my question, though, to you, John, and to everybody watching, was this too late? Should this open quarterback competition have taken place during the bye week? Maybe. Was Aguano maybe scared to pull the trigger after, saying after the Washington game, his players don't lose their spot due to injury. Well, losing it to injury and losing it in a fair competition are two very different things. So,
well,
should this have happened sooner, do you think?
Aguano started off right after the Washington game after the victory in that press conference saying it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a real battle, implying that it was going to be a competition. He even said it later before the first. He said on a Monday he said it was going to be a real competition. Tuesday there was a walkthrough. On Wednesday he said he's going to be that Emory had the job. That's not a big body of work. One walkthrough to have determined that. That's why I think when you see this time it'll be a real competition, it implies that it wasn't a real competition, nor was it real, nor was it a competition, and he's recognized that in the fact that we only scored 14 points. So he has, in order to have any credibility with the rest of the kids, yes, he probably had to start him. He probably had to just because of the old axiom, you don't lose your job. I don't personally believe in that. I think you go with the hot hand when your career's on the line. And but is it too late? Yeah, I think it's preventing him. This could well prevent him from getting his 6 wins out of that he needs, because UCLA and Oregon, I think Wazoo's maybe manageable. Oregon State's a handful. But yeah, every year I say this to you, why is the U of A game so is what it is? And I always say, because there's always something riding on it, right?
Oh yeah.
A bowl game,
always.
And this may be a careers on it.
Yeah.
But yes, it should have taken.
And I'll cut Aguano a little bit of slack. I mean, he hasn't been a head coach. He hasn't had to try to make these decisions in 3-4 years.
Yeah.
So I'll cut him a little bit of slack. It's a growing pain as a part of being a head coach and being a leader of a program. But you learn from your mistakes. You learn from your experiences. And I mean, I was in favor of the Emory Jones hire, and Emory Jones decision to start him. I felt like he had a good first half. Just when the second half hit and he didn't adjust, and they didn't, the coaching staff didn't do him any favors, the offensive line didn't do him any favors. It was it was kind of, and I still felt confident in him up until that last drive, but when he kind of mismanaged the game a little bit towards the end there, that just kind of did it for me.
Well, there was a combination of poor clock management and coming off the field after the and his coaches, Aguano's addressing him, and he just blows him off and keeps on walking. To me, that disrespect is not. I mean, if this was Frank Kush, you're going to walk home from Palo Alto. You're not getting on the bus. I'm sorry. And so there was just a combination of things that I think sort of all came to a head. Yeah. And I think it made Aguano realize I got to take a different tact here. And thank goodness he's doing it. I had eyeballs on it today. It was a real competition. It was exactly the same, same drills, same plays, same, receivers. They were mixing it up, but and it was not. This was in shell, so they were not going after the quarterback hard.
Well, yeah, but they did full pads yesterday, though, didn't they?
They did. Yeah, today was shells, just shoulder pads and shorts.
Right.
And so it was a real competition, but Trenton. I mean, if you're charting it, he clearly won today. So I'm not going to be surprised if Trenton. I will be more surprised if he sticks with Emory at this point. From a football.
Well, if it was a real competition, if he's serious about giving every opportunity to Trenton to be the starter,
mm-hmm.
It might. I think it is time for a change. I think you got to. Emory's like you mentioned during your what we learned. Emory's 1-5 as a starter right now.
It ain't gonna get.
This was the NFL You'd probably be going to the backup at this.
This was a game. Stanford was a game to get right. That's all there was to it. This was the perfect game. Back half of the season was starting. The second six. We always said this from the beginning of the season on this podcast. This was the opportunity they had in the second 6 games to really start some momentum, and they started it in the 5th game in Washington. To really get on a nice roll, and that's where confidence at. That's where the good practices happen. The good habits start to really click in, and it's being reinforced by W's. So I want nothing more. And I'm gonna say it for the record, folks. I can be critical, but I'm also going to say I want nothing more than Sean Aguano to succeed. I want nothing more, because I think the discipline is great. I think the accountability is great. I mean, a kid shows up late for practice, you're out of here. You're not going to play. He kept a kid home this week for disciplinary reasons.
Isaiah Johnson.
And kids run after practice. If they get something wrong in practice, they run it again. This is all new culture, and the kids are being run harder. We're going to see it. We're going to see this week, and maybe this is not the time to bring it up, but we're going to run pace. We're going to run up tempo. That's kind of the style that Aguano, liked in high school and likes now. He likes the ability to keep the defense on his heels, keep them gassed.
Yeah, and that's probably a good transition to our next topic that we wanted to cover. We were going to talk. I thought we were going to talk about the play calling. Play caller, but sure. Which it kind of, that was another thing that Sean Aguano addressed this week in his press conference, was that he was going to take a more active role in the play calling,
right,
instead of offensive coordinator Glenn Thomas.
Yeah, this shouldn't be a surprise, Ryan, because he's been intimating for a couple of weeks that he wanted to take more control, right? So it's not like this is completely out of the blue and everybody's blindsided by it. No, he's been saying for weeks that he wanted to assert himself more.
It's probably a good time for the change. We mentioned that Glenn Thomas had not made enough adjustments to the play calling when the defense was changing it up.
Can I go back to something?
Giving them different looks.
Yeah.
And I think he's put a little too much pressure on the offensive line and the quarterback at times.
Yeah.
I think that someone like Aguano, I think should certainly get an opportunity to change it up. Hopefully we'll see some different things, some better things. I'd certainly like to see the tight end get more involved again.
Absolutely.
Because we got these two studs at tight end in Sias Winston and Jalen Conyers, and they have not been involved in the offense enough, especially in the past couple weeks. Conyers had that one big catch against Washington, but they were non-factors against Stanford, which was a surprise.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see more of that. And then you mentioned, of course, running pace, which we've seen a little bit at times.
Yeah.
Just as a different look, but I think we're going to see a little bit more of that with Aguano calling plays now. Forward.
I want to go back to the genesis of this whole Glenn Thomas, how this came about. Just for the fans who don't remember, Zach Hill, offensive coordinator last year. Zach Hill took an interview at Auburn. Zach Hill said, "I'm coming your way." And then Auburn backed off because they had seen the implications that that Zach Hill's name was coming up in the
recruiting violation.
In the recruiting violation.
Right.
And so because and then Herm said, "Well, you don't want to stay here, so we're going to have to." And because he was implicated, it became very easy to let Zach go. But by the time all this happened, you're looking at February to get a new OC, very late in the game. All the choice moves had probably been made by then. So I think Glenn Thomas was kind of like musical chairs, just the last man standing, and didn't have a chair, and we took him in. And I just don't think that in retrospect, this has been the best I love the X's and O's. I love the creativity. I love what he's doing. But to not get your tight ends involved and to not make the adjustments at halftime is really those are the marks of a modern day D1 Power 5 program.
Definitely.
So that's my criticism. I want to see him do well. I think Aguano will figure it out. He's got enough brain power. He's got around to help do this. as far as
I mean,
the schemes.
Did it for years at Chandler High School. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly involved, I think, in the game planning
Oh yeah.
aspect when he was a running backs coach. So
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's not to say he can't do it.
No.
So I just
And
kind of hoping he's spreads the ball around a little bit more, and hopefully if it is Trenton Bourget, I think that was not my another criticism I had of Emory Jones was it felt like to me at times he was staring down receivers.
yes.
He was not going through his progressions fast enough.
Well,
that's something Trenton Bourget does very well.
Well, the criticism wasn't just me who pointed. It was Herm Edwards who actually reinforced this when at the radio show one night when he said the problem with Emory was that he was hanging on the ball so long that the O-line thought the ball was out and really kind of gave up on blocks at a normal pace. But had the ball been out in 2.3, 2.5 seconds, those blocks would have held. But again, because he's taking too long because he's not
to go through his progressions, right?
It's taking so long. And Trenton doesn't do that. Trenton knows. He knows where the pressure's coming. He knows where the defense is.
The timing, he knows when the ball is supposed to be out.
Right. It's a whole lot easier to for that O line to hold when as there's as beat up and makeshift as they are to hold that block for just that 2 seconds that he needs. Right. So that's another reason why Trenton needs to be playing.
Yeah. So and we'll certainly see how it all shakes out later this week and what the team looks like on Saturday. So certainly something to keep an eye on. As we move into Colorado here, the Buffaloes have in the midst of a bad season themselves. Carl Durrell fired on October 2nd after they had a 0-5 start themselves.
Right.
A lot of parallels being drawn between these two programs at the moment. And interim coach Mike Sanford takes over during the bye week, and his first game they actually won. They managed to beat the Cal Golden Bears in overtime, and they're also breaking in a new defensive coordinator. Chris Wilson was fired when Durrell was let go. Gerald Chapman taken over. And it's time. I think it's time for ASU to kind of get off the schneid a little bit and break this streak that they've been on, where they haven't beaten the Buffaloes in Boulder since 2014. Of course, everybody remembers that game as the one that Taylor Kelly was hurt in that season when there were so high expectations on that team. But this Colorado team is they've been going through some injury issues themselves. And it's played a part in their season up until this point. As we get a look at their schedule here, they obviously lost to TCU in Boulder to open the season, and they lost to their in-state, I guess, rival Air Force.
Yeah, at Air Force.
Yeah, at Air Force, and then losing to Minnesota. UCLA, U of A. Mentioned the win against Cal in overtime, and then last week they just got run off the field by Oregon State and Corvallis. So this is a team, you look at some of these scores, they're losing by 30, 40 points. This is just not a very good team at the moment.
The U of A game was that was in Tucson, right?
I believe so.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
so they haven't been in any of these games really, other than the
other than the Cal game, not really.
Right.
Yeah, I know, and then like I said, they've been they were a little bit like Stanford was at the beginning of the season.
But look at this gauntlet.
But Stanford was losing by by less than 20 points.
Correct.
Whereas Colorado's, as you can see, is losing by 30 or 40 some games. So,
but look at the gauntlet they have coming up. Us, Oregon, SC, Washington, Utah. No fun, huh?
Nope. They may that win against Cal may be their only win on the year.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, but this is a team. I questioned the Carl Durrell hire when they first brought him in. I saw how he struggled at UCLA. I didn't feel like he was the right guy. I didn't think he was a good Power 5 head coach. Good choice for a Power 5 head coach.
No argument here.
Colorado that's had. They've had success. It's been a while, but they had a lot of success in the 90s. But they've kind of fallen off a little bit, especially since Mike McIntyre was kind of let go. Mike McIntyre kind of brought this program back, and they won the Pac-12 South in 2016, and they looked like they were going to be good going forward. And they had players like Laviska Chenault and Philip Lindsay. A lot of some very good players come through this program in recent years, and they let McIntyre go. He kind of butted heads with the administration, and they just haven't really found anybody to lead the program since. I mean, Durrell was his replacement, but he was just plain awful in his third. This was the start of his third season.
Mm-hmm.
And gets fired after 5 games. So kind of a tough situation here in Colorado, but this is a good opportunity, I feel like, for ASU to get right. They've been going through the quarterback carousel themselves this season. Brendan Lewis, who started most of last season, and he started the opener this year, he was benched after one or two games, and he's entered the transfer portal. And now then they put it on Owen McCown, the son of Josh, and he's he was having a decent season, 57 for 100, 600 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 2 rushing touchdowns. Started 3 games, and then left during the game against Cal. And there's some argument whether he was benched or if he had just like a nagging injury that made him miss the rest of Cal in Oregon State. Right now he's questionable. We don't know who the starter is going to be. It could be Owen McCown or the guy who started last week against Oregon State, the Tennessee transfer, J.T. Shrout. He played extremely well against Cal for about fourth quarter and overtime, but kind of little pedestrian numbers here, especially that completion percentage. He hasn't completed 45% of his passes this season. Plus, he's got 3 touchdowns against 3 interceptions. So he had a rough game against Oregon State, but he played well against Cal. We'll see who the starter is. We probably won't even know until the day of the game. I think they might be leaning more towards Shrout. But he played in 5 games this season, so they've been giving him a lot of opportunity, plenty of opportunities. But see what happens there. But one place where they're actually getting healthy is the running back spot. They were playing a lot of younger guys, but Deion Smith, who was expected to be a focal point of their offense, was stretchered off. It was kind of a scary situation against Cal. He's having a good season, 46 carries, 243 yards, and a touchdown. But it looks like he's going to be back against ASU. He practiced this week, and Mike Sanford said he will probably play. And then Alex Fontenot, who is a senior, been with the program a lot of years. He hasn't played since week 2, but he's questionable for this week. He was cleared to return to practice. We don't know if he'll play in this game. He's kind of the change of Deion Smith is kind of the smaller scat back, but he's still the starter. Fontenot is kind of a bigger back. So we should see Deion Smith. Don't know if we're going to see Fontenot just yet, but those are 2 guys that are going to be focal points of their offense for sure. And then kind of the rest of the running backs, these guys have kind of handled the load since the top 2 backs have been hurt. Hankerson, Offerdahl, and Stacks. I'm sure we'll see probably 1 or 2 of them throughout the course of this game as well. And then the receiving corps, they've had trouble throwing the ball. Plain and simple. Then that's what happens when you have a quarterback carousel. They're averaging 176 yards through the air this season. So they've really had that quarterback trouble kind of trickled down to the receivers. They don't even have a receiver with 20 catches on the year. But Daniel Arias has been the leading receiver so far, 19 receptions, 309 yards, and a touchdown. Jordan Tyson's kind of their big play threat. He's got 218 yards on just 12 receptions. That's 18 yards a catch. Yeah. So he's kind of their big play guy. 2 touchdowns on the season. And then Montana Lamonius Craig is another guy you got to watch out for. 15 receptions, 198 yards, and a touchdown. He's kind of their tall possession receiver. But certainly somebody who's been a playmaker for them. so far this year. And another guy they're really looking for big things out of is the Baylor transfer, R.J. Sneed. He hasn't put up big numbers, but they're probably going to be looking to get him more involved. And then Maurice Bell is another guy who will certainly be in the mix. And then their tight end, Brady Russell, has not been having a great season. He's only caught 8 balls on the year. He's their leading receiver at tight end. But with what has shown up on film with ASU's defense, expect him to get more involved in this offense, I think, in this game as well. So that's the Colorado offense. A lot of moving parts there. Again, we don't know who their quarterback is going to be at this point as of Thursday, but should be interesting to see how this offense comes together. Now that they're getting some players back healthy at running back. Now the Colorado defense has been a big problem. I mean, they're giving up about 254 yards on the ground per game. I think it was 473 yards allowed per game. So they've been consistently giving up more than 40 points a game as well. So Isaiah Lewis, though, has been a bright spot for them. 21 tackles, interception, and pass defense on the season. Terrence Lang, their defensive end, they have some size up front. They're just not very good athletes, which has been a problem for them. But yeah, Terrence Lang, 18 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and a sack on the season. And then they'll run a joker, which is kind of a rush linebacker down into the box and on the edge of the D line. He's got Guy Thomas. He's got 20 tackles and 4 tackles for loss on the season. And then
that's the guy Case Hatch will be.
You would think so, yeah. The one blocking on the edge.
Yeah,
that'll probably be the case. No pun intended. And then also our keys to the game, presented by Valley Athletic Booster Club. Support local athletics. Check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. For me, there's got to be a ground garrison in this game. O-line, needs to be a bounce back game for the O-line. The way they struggled against Stanford, you can't have that happen 2 weeks in a row. There can't be a lot of rushers running free and can't be getting thrown. Your running backs can't be getting thrown for 3 and 4 yard losses on first down, putting you behind the sticks. The way that happened against Stanford, that really set them back offensively. So this needs to be a bounce back game for the O-line, especially against this weak Colorado rush defense. I mentioned it; they're only giving up 220 yards or so per game through the air. Why? Because they're giving up 254 yards per game on the ground. Nobody has to throw the ball against this team because they're running for 250 yards a game. So you especially when you look at the Oregon State game last week. Oregon State, they got some size up front. They have good freshman running back in Damian Martinez, but they still ran for 270 yards.
Wow.
So ASU, they've got you got to hit the 200-yard mark, I think, against this rush.
So anything, I think the magic number is 200.
I think you rush for 200 yards in this game. I think you're going to win it.
You're going to win.
Especially with the running backs that you have. I know the offensive line has been struggling a little bit with the musical chairs that they've been playing, but I still think this is a team that you can run against, and there's no reason to think that they can't go out there and just dominate the line of scrimmage and chew up the clock and keep the chains moving and go on some long touchdown drives. I think this is a good opportunity for this offensive line to get some confidence back, get a good rotation going, and find some rhythm a little bit in this offense, especially if you're going tempo and you're able to run the ball with success. So hopefully that'll come to fruition. And then Buffalo Wings, start fast. I think in this game, you get off to a fast start. Colorado's a team that's down. They're not playing with a lot of confidence right now. Yeah, they're getting some players back this week, but if you start fast, put them in like a 14-0 hole to start the game and just chew up the clock a little bit. Don't give them any momentum and just go out there, play your game, and don't try to do too much. You should be able to come out of Boulder with a win. So I don't think there's any reason, rhyme or reason behind that. just play your game. Don't let Colorado play theirs, and just keep. This is a team that's losing by 30, 40 points a game.
But
And they beat a kind of a subpar Cal team in overtime. There's no reason ASU can't go out and hang 30 points on this team and
right.
keep them in their place.
Don't you think that if you look at USC, our games, USC, Washington, and now Stanford, and the way we've been increasing the defensive pressure and the sack production, and coming up creative with blitzing guys from different spots and lining up different guys in different spots, that this trajectory looks like that this is the kind of thing where you keep it up, you should be. You're going to keep that quarterback very dirty. You're going to keep it dirty.
One thing I like that they did against Stanford. I mean, they defended the run extremely well.
They did.
Stanford had 78 yards total rushing.
This
Colorado team, they're not going to want to put too much on their young quarterbacks who have not played particularly well this season. Right. And with them getting healthy at the running back spot, believe me, they're going to want to run the ball.
Oh, sure.
They're going to want to put Deion Smith and available Alex Fontenot to work. So if you can clamp down on the running game, if the offense can put some points on the board, turn this team into a passing team, the defense is going to have plenty of opportunities, pin their ears back, and come after whoever's under center.
That was basically the game plan at Stanford, was to make them a one-dimensional team, shut down the run, and make them pass, and we were ball hawking like crazy. It's just the flip side of that, you got to go score some points.
Yeah,
right.
And against the defense, I mean, I call Stanford kind of a weak defense, but it looked like they kind of turned the corner against Notre Dame, and they, they definitely took advantage of ASU's kind of shortcomings on the O line, and
right.
With the play calling and their and the quarterback situation, they're well coached, and
they were dinged up too.
Certainly took advantage, and
they were short-handed.
They were a team that was giving up a lot of yards,
right,
and points this season, but looks like they've kind of turned the corner, and they've kind of clamped down on their shortcomings a little bit. Don't let Colorado do that. Don't keep them in their place. Don't let them get any kind of confidence on either side of the ball and make them think that they can hang with you for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
That's key for me.
Yeah, for me, we're going to run, and run some more. Run wild, run free.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's.
I'd like to see, just to tell you how much I want to see this team run the ball against this Colorado team. I hope Daniel Ngata gets double-digit carries.
I do too.
That I'd really like to see, because Oregon State, they leaned a little heavily on Damian Martinez. He had 22 carries, but they worked other guys, Jam Griffin, Isaiah Newell, and some of their other running backs into the mix to kind of keep everybody fresh. I'm hoping that ASU does the same, and Oregon State ended up with 44 total carries.
Wow.
So I think ASU's got to have a minimum of 30.
I can't argue with that. No, I can't argue with that.
And against this, there's no reason you can't. I think we mentioned the magic number. I think 200 yards. If you can run for 200 yards against this Colorado team, you're going to win the game, because they have really struggled to stop the run, and there's no reason to think they can't. ASU can't run the ball against this team.
Mm-hmm. Get the ball in the playmakers' hands. Obviously, we've got some nice weapons out there. Really encouraged to keep seeing guys like Gio Sanders when the ball's in his hand doing good things. We're not putting the ball in tight ends' hands. I'm not going to tell you the game plan or what I saw today, but folks, I think you're going to be happy with what with some of the new wrinkles that Iguana was throwing at this. We got to keep Trenton clean. That's a big key to the game to me. 4 sacks, a bunch of hurries is not going to help get the momentum going for Trenton. He's going to get the ball out a lot quicker than Emory, and as a result, I think a lot of good things happen because of that. I think, but you get in that nice rhythm where you're handing off to X and to Ngata, and you're gashing them, and then you go hit them for a nice, we're going to throw the swing pass. We're going to throw the all the stuff we've been doing. But what's impressive about our wide receivers is they're going down and getting some deeper balls now, and it's real pretty. I saw a great ball today from Chad Johnson. Chad Johnson
I mean,
caught a
that's another
beauty.
thing with Sean Guano's play calling. It sounds like he's going to want to throw the ball
Yep.
downfield a little more. So hopefully that's something that they'll have the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
Preferably on play action, because they've established the run so well.
That's fine. It's going to be a little cold. It's going to start up around 59. It's going to get down to about 49 by the end of the game. Not too much wind, but it will be colder than we're used to. But that just means, hang on the ball. No, nothing.
The running game travels.
It does.
So defense travels. The running game travels. You go out there, play defense well, maybe force a couple turnovers.
Yeah.
And you run the ball. You got to put yourself in a great spot to win this game.
Yeah, I fully expect they're gonna try to put their hats on the ball, strip balls, whatever they can do to win the turnover battle. But just hang
Deion
on.
Smith hasn't played in a couple weeks, so he's going to be, he may not be, he may not be warm, especially early in the game. So there could be some opportunities there. And hey, if you're able to pin your ears back, get after the quarterbacks. Quarterbacks have both thrown interceptions this year, so
right.
A total of 5 between them, I believe. So they're prone to mistakes. So go out there, get after them, put some balls in the air that they don't want to let go of on time.
Yeah.
Then you're putting yourself in a good spot, I think.
Hey, little plug for the Valley Athletic Booster Club on Thursday, November 3rd. Coach Iguano is going to be our guest speaker at Dave & Buster's at noon. So you're all invited to come out, come see Coach. We'll do a Q&A. Doug Franz from Doug and Wolf will be out he'll be our MC and doing the question and answers. So it'll be a good time. We've been having Sean's all in as far as community relations, getting out and mixing it up with the boosters. So Valley Athletic Booster Club, and
he's definitely campaigning, isn't he?
Well, he's working I give him credit. He's out there working hard on the recruiting some local kids.
Yeah, he offered some kids this week, I saw. So
yep.
It's good to see that he's going out there and trying to make the job his own.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of how long he's in the position.
Right.
So we'll see.
We'll cover that,
and we'll see how the rest of the season shakes out.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the season we'll have a special episode on what's likely to happen next with coaching. We'll have a much better idea how we finish, and if there's an LOA, a letter of accusation by the NC2A by then, to see what we're really up against, because that's what any good name coach is going to want to have in front of him.
He's going to want to know what he's facing before he takes the job.
Exactly. And we're not
ASU's all kind of cleared.
And for people to suggest really silly things, for some of these name coaches that are out there, you're not going to get a name coach unless you throw stupid money at them. That's going to make it worth their while. And there's no precedent for that here. There's just
Michael Crow has said that that they're willing to pay out more than they have in the past.
But they're not going to go $8 million for somebody. They're going to stick in that range where they have been and throw lots of incentives at somebody. And so a young guy like a Kenny Dillingham would probably go, oh great, his wife's from Scottsdale, she'd love to come back. But we'll have a lot.
That sounds like a smart move on paper. At least we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. If ASU gets to a bowl game, maybe beats U of A. I think Sean Iguano makes a nice case for to be the head coach.
Sure.
I don't know. I think that Stanford game really set him back, but we'll kind of see how the rest of the season plays out before we kind of make a judgment.
Yeah, I've been calling it. He has to thread the needle to get this job, and I think the needle just got a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So that'll do it. Well, and of course, we got our score predictions here. I think it'll be just a little closer of a game. I think this offense, with Sean Guano calling the plays and kind of the shuffling of the offensive line, they may not put up as many points as some people are predicting. I still think ASU comes out with the win, 33-16. I think they'll get out to a big lead, by the end of the third quarter, and then they'll kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit. Colorado might, keep their ones in and against ASU's twos and put some points on the board late. But this should still be an ASU win.
What? I went really on the high side this week. I was at practice today. I liked everything I saw. I liked what Bourget was doing. I liked, I even liked what special teams was doing today. And I'm not gonna tell you anything that you're not supposed to know. But this over under of 46.5 seems a little light to me. Is all I'm going to say. I think we have the players, we have the athletes to
I
hang
didn't know that before I made my score prediction. By the way, I didn't know the over under was 46.5.
Did you? No,
I did not.
I just looked it up as I was about. Yeah, I just looked it up 46.5. Is that where'd you wind up? You wind up at 49. 49. Okay,
yeah.
that's close. Yeah, you're a lot more conservative than I am. But no,
yeah,
I think
well, the fact that they're going to want to run the ball. I mean, I don't know if they're going to. Hopefully, X Valley will be able to break off, some long runs, but I don't know if they're going to be like some home run plays necessarily.
Yeah.
I think this is still a team that's more methodical, likes to move the ball down the field a little bit. They may take. I think they'll take some more shots downfield in this game, against this team, but they're still going to need to establish the run first and foremost.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll lead to some big pass plays down the field.
Normally, when you score 45, you're putting your defense on the field a lot. But the way our defense is playing, I'm not worried about that.
No, and especially with Colorado's offense,
yes,
the way they've played so far this year,
yeah,
you're not worried on that.
What I fully expect is a lot of plays that we ran this year that went for 6, 8, 10 yards are going to go for 20, 30 yards. In other words, you're going to see a lot of the same kind of design, but you're going to see, because of the weakness of the linebacker secondary, you're going to see bigger plays go for longer. That's why I went so high.
Yeah, hopefully we will. I certainly hope you're right, but I don't have a whole lot of faith in this team, and not the offense anyway, until they show me different, regardless of who the quarterback is. Yeah. But I still think they should be able to put some points on the board against this team, and certainly, the way the defense has been playing, hopefully they'll create a turnover that will lead to points as well. But I've been a little overzealous the last few weeks with my score predictions going a little on the high side. This game, I think I'm going to go change it up a little bit, go on the low side.
That's because you thought Emery was the guy.
Well, so up until that last drive of the Stanford game, I still thought he could be, but he goes out there, completes that ball to Badger, and ASU kicks a field goal to win the game. We could be having a very different conversation.
To me, you never should be in that position. You should have made the field goal before half. No. You make the field goal before half. For our field goal kicker to come up shy at what was a normal range for him, especially when he had a 52-yarder the week before, like 53-yarder. I mean, what was that?
Yeah.
So I
was saying the same thing. I was like, did he short that? I couldn't believe that.
Unbelievable. But I have to give a lot of credit to our punter. Here's the special teams moment. I think our kicker punter.
We have to have one every game. So
I think our punter was
every show.
He was putting that ball down in the death zone down there. It was a couple times. I mean, he put him down on the 6-inch line at one point. That was just tight. But anyway, there's lots of high spots. Soli continues he's on a pace to break a record for ASU and to be. He's number 2 in the country now for in the FCS the FBS for setting a record
for tackles.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's on track for 143 right now. So he's
nice.
He's having that kind of year.
Yeah. Nice. So that'll do it for us this week on Running with the Devils. I always thank you for tuning in. This will be a 4:30 kickoff on ESPNU. Or if you can tune in to 98.7 FM to listen to the game. Tim Healy, Jeff Van Raphorst, as always, will have a call. ASU 14-point favorites. That might be a little on the low side. I would certainly take the over on that in this game, but we'll certainly see. This should be. I'm hoping this will be a get right game for ASU. They definitely need one after that narrow loss to Stanford last week. So. We say goodnight. Bury the Buffs. That's the mission this week. That's the war cry. Say goodnight. Right. Go Devils. Forks up.
Forks up, Devils.
Get that W.
Get after them. Let's go.